Hello there, science fans and evolutionists. How are you? And welcome back to the reading room. I have with me the just out of the ring, Austin Sims, the cringy debate bro. Apparently, according to him. Welcome, and how are you feeling after that encounter with the Kentinator?
I feel good. I feel like I kind of knew his sitch, and I was ready for it, and I countered it pretty comprehensively where I could. And Donnie did a pretty good job moderating tonight.
Don usually does. Look, no moderator is 100% unbiased, in my opinion. Like, there'll always be some sort of, if it's not a bias towards a side, it'll be a bias towards either order or chaos kind of thing. Like, you'll notice that. But I think as far as moderators go on the Christian side, I like Donnie. I think he's one of the best, if not the best moderator on the Christian side. A lot of them will literally mute you for making a good point, and Donnie doesn't do that. He has some form of integrity. Is he perfect? No, but none of us are. So I'm a big fan of Donnie moderating. I wish he would debate me, but I don't think that's going to happen. But
Barry and Left-Handed Jedi are saying they can't hear us.
Oh, what? They can't hear us.
Barry Shant says, might be a problem on my end, but I can't hear shit.
Give me one sec.
Seabest says she can't hear. Your hooligan says he hears us fine. Yeah, Barry, I think it might be a problem on your end.
Just try refreshing. Can we try refreshing? Because I just went to the stream and it seems to be coming through fine, people. So maybe just try refresh and see if it works. Okay, you scared me then because I recently on my gaming channel I played Lies of P, and my OBS crashed at the very final boss in the final fight, and it broke my heart. So tech issues have been I was so mad.
That's terrible, Mark. Oh, I'm sorry. As a gamer, I know your pain.
Oh, look, it's just one of those things. I've just accepted it, but at the time, ouch, that hurt deep in my in my unmentionables. It really did. But it happens. You can't. OBS hates everybody. If you know what OBS is, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Anyway, let's get back to the topic. And this was your first time debating Ken. Was it your first debate?
No, I had like 4 debates against this crazy guy, Eric Jewell, who runs his Lionheart channel.
Oh, yes.
Where he punches out the evil atheists like me. And I said, hey, this guy debates a lot like Kent Hovind. And that's because, of course, he's a classic Hovindian. And I took him on 4 times and wiped the floor with him every time. And I was like, I bet I could do this to Kent. And so I wanted to test that theory out. And I think I did pretty much prove that hypothesis. At least got in there with him, and definitely some of his audience. I think I saw a couple comments that were pretty favorable to me from some people. And unfortunately, there wasn't as many young people there as Kent had led me to believe previously. I asked Donnie and Kent before we went on how many young people they had in the audience, because I was more interested in taking their questions than the audience's questions. And he said there was only one person there, and I asked how young he was, and he said the guy was 28. And I was like, what? 28? That's like 4 years younger than I am.
He's like the boomer icon. He's not, young people.
I was really disappointed by that. But Jake here in the comments said his 7-year-old daughter was watching the debate, apparently, and she was laughing at Hovind. She was mocking Hovind during the debate. And this is funny because my own 6-year-old daughter watched one of my debates. She saw part of the last debate I had with this guy, and she said, you should have kicked that guy in the nuts.
Yeah. Well, metaphorically, of course.
But the mind of a child. They say such beautiful things sometimes.
Yeah, the truth, children. Yeah, so I mean, I thought it was very good. I want to really point out and stress on one thing. What I absolutely loved was where you said, let's do a hydrological sorting test. Let's actually put this into an experiment and you can show how it happened under hydrological sorting. I thought that was absolutely genius because he's never going to do that. Like,
here's the thing, we've already done it, Mark. It's called physics.
Okay.
If you take a bunch of animals and you put them in a room and you flood them, it doesn't magically sort them. They fall on the ground where they die. Another layer of sediment gets layered on top of them. The thing is, they don't do the test because we've already done the test. The test is just called science for the most part.
Well, I loved how he held up his little sand toy. As you said, you have a lab, and he held up the sand toy, and it's like, he thinks that toy is a lab, like where you would do actual sort of hydrophysics kind of thing and hydro fluid dynamics and stuff. Like, what? No. I guess it's like his science.
Walmart Kids toy. Here you go. Here's your answer to how it happened.
Well, you know, his science center does have some stuff that we would say.
You're just too stupid to get it, Mark. You're just too stupid to get it. That's the problem that you don't understand, Mark.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that, to be honest with you, my criticism would probably be there's no presentation. I do like a presentation. Everybody knows that out of me. I love like just a simple PowerPoint or simple.
You know what? I had the presentation. I didn't even have to get into it because of his normal ass shtick. You know, the 6 levels of evolution.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't change what he says.
I have it all here. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, sure.
Present. Sure. Yep, here we go. Let's see. I've got, I have it organized in the worst and stupidest way possible, but this is what I got. I've got this post of the different big bad Bible boys that I was using. Whoops, that's not it. Is it? Are you seeing
wrong window? Well, at least it's not porn. That's all I can say.
Is it sharing it? It's not sharing it.
You've shared the wrong window.
Yeah, that's the wrong thing. Damn it.
You should just be able to go up to the top and hit switch window, or you can just close it and open the right one. That's another thing. And I just want to, while you're finding that, I just want to give a big shout out to Robin Webster, one of the absolute angels, metaphorical angels, of course. We don't believe in real angels here, but metaphorical angels that is part of the moderation team for the Read community. Missed the debate, community drama ongoing. Okay, well, I hope you're not part of the drama. I just want no part of drama at the moment. What you got for me, Austin? What you got? So I'm moving to assure it's not
the big bad Bible voice. This is Philo of Alexandria, a Hellenistic Jewish philosopher. This is Maimonides, another Hellenistic Jew, very big fucking theology guy. These fucking theologists should respect, right? But they don't give a shit about his opinion because he says evolutionary creation. Fuck yeah, dude. That shit could totally happen. Don't you dare say God's infinite, limitless possibilities don't include that.
Well, I mean,
don't even want to get into that shit.
Well, I mean, by that,
you and me both know the answer to the question, what does Kent know about competing exegeses of the Bible, is fuck all. Nothing. The man is basically a mutated Seventh-day Adventist. He's a fucking moron. And I just debated the shit out of his ass, and it was fucking easy.
Well, I look forward to the
he calls himself this big super master debater, and his bullshit. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He is a liar.
So Hillhugger gifted a readership and hit the freak. Thank you so much, Hillhugger. Really appreciate it, mate. Well, some of the things
I would say I have proved to myself beyond all doubt all of those hypotheses are true. He is either a liar or he is extremely stupid, but he is also a liar.
It can be both. Sure, that's not mutually
yeah,
exclusive.
you probably shouldn't waste your time doing what I'm doing. Nobody should have to do what I'm doing. Basically, what I'm doing is giving his audience the desperately needed intervention that one of their friends or family members or somebody other than me should have been giving them. You know, so somebody other than some random dude on the internet. And yeah. So why was I so nice to Kent? To avoid dealing with him filibustering. When you're mean to him, he filibusters and tortures you. When you're nice to him, he'll actually let you discuss the relevant facts a little bit. And that's kind of what I tried to do tonight. Yeah, he's a massive debater.
Yeah, so but I think he is, like, as Jake says, he's a stepping stone. He's a good debate to have because he always says the same thing, but his sort of tactics are very sort of shady kind of thing. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about, and one's the straw man. So the straw man that sort of says, hey, you know, this is what evolution is, kind of thing, and telling you've got the wrong definition when it is the side that's saying evolution that is providing the definition for it. So how did, like, and you responded well. You said, no, you've got it wrong. That is not the definition. Like, without becoming a definition debate, how do you think we should go about, like, saying, well, you've got this definition, it's not recognized by any scientific institution anywhere. Why should we accept your definition?
I think it is all about, you know, his shtick for him. You can't really do it without being good at debating. And I'm fucking way too high to even tell you the answer to that because I just smoked a fat ass bowl in between our debate. I don't know how I manipulated that big of a narcissist. It was tough, man.
And Lorraine's for $2 says, Lorraine Drosfilia says, it is both. Thank you so much to the fruit fly saying it is both. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. And the other thing is, I want to sort of talk about the reification fallacy that he's making, because I've heard, and a big shout out to Donnie. He's very welcome to come in when I open up the room. I just have this point to make. Do you know what a reification fallacy is?
Lay it on me, Mark.
Okay, so reification fallacy is confusing the map with the place, right? So if you're sitting there and you look at a graphic of something and you say, well, it's got this thing in here, sometimes you're basically, if it's not an accurate model, you can confuse the map with the actual place, and it's called a reification fallacy. So when Kent's saying, hey, this line is on the paper coming directly from this to this, he's making a reification fallacy. He's basically saying, on the paper, it's all so simplified. And it's like, well, yes, that is just a representation, and not very good one at that. It's meant for children's textbooks because he goes to these places children's textbooks for his stuff.
Which is kind of what I just explained. It's a visual representation of data.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is what I say.
Yeah. So we're not saying that, but I've heard a lot of noise about reification fallacies lately from Donnie. Yeah, big shout out to Donnie. I saw it. Reification fallacies. I can certainly talk to you about it and what is and is not a reification fallacy. But yeah, it's sort of pointing out that a graphic says this when it's not supposed to be an accurate, accurate representation of phylogeny or cladistics is a reification fallacy. And
it's just an assembly of data.
Right. The flat earthers used to do it all the time. They said, oh, you're looking at a map and that you're making a reification fallacy. And it's like, no, because we're not thinking that the map is the real place because of the map. We have other data that shows that the earth is a globe. So it's weird to me that the young earthers are using the same arguments that flat earthers did like 2 years ago, which is wild to me.
Man, he definitely had some points where I was like, I don't know what the fuck this guy's talking about, for sure.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, but
so I knew I was
it's
going to have to be like, oh yeah, Kent. Okay, I'll think about that. I'm learning. Show me. Ask.
well, it's
Come up with
interesting.
some good questions to ask about it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting,
And
and I
let him
really
spew his
appreciate.
answer, whatever it is. Because I am there to learn.
No, that's fair.
I
That's fair, and
enjoy
I think that you
learning.
did a good job of sort of letting him put stuff out there and then challenging on him. A lot of people, like, there was a little bit of interrupting. I think Donnie was really good for clamping down on it. I think, but
Yeah,
I
the
think
open
that,
discussion part with him is tricky.
well, he goes to different topics. Like, as soon as you cornered him
Yeah.
on one thing, he went on to a completely different topic without addressing it, which is sort of one of the other points I had. But thank you so much to Jake. Remember, for 11 months, Jake, you are a hero. The average Christian has never heard of Hovind. No, but the average Christian thinks that evolution is real. That's the thing.
Even a lot of the average young Earth creationists haven't heard of Hovind. I work with 3 of them, and none of them have heard of him.
Yeah. Anyway, are you happy to? Do you have anything else to add about the debate, or can we open up the room? What do you feel
open
like?
it up? Yeah, bring it in. It looks like everybody here's pretty friendly. Donnie's in here. Come on in, Donnie.
Yeah.
What did you think of the debate? Did you have a good time?
So that is the link. Oh, actually, I will go. Please.
Repping Michigan.
Questions. So if anyone has any questions,
if you're thinking about moving, your vote means more in a swing state.
If you have any questions, just tag me directly. I'm more than happy to ask them to the entire panel, whoever comes on. The link to join will be pinned at the top. So feel free to come on in and tell us what you think of the debate, or if you disagree with anything presented.
Yeah,
please.
You're right, Lorraine Drossophilia. Maybe we should talk about plant evolution, but I'm not a plant evolution expert myself. Maybe I should team up with the plant evolution expert and debate Kent again, because I ain't no plant guy. Well, I smoke the plant. I smoke that.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting that he got the colony thing wrong. So a difference between a colony and a multicellular organism is that a colony can break apart again.
No, he has to get it wrong, Mark.
Well, yeah. I mean, the organism can break apart, and members of a colony will survive by themselves. But in the case of this algae, it could not break apart. The individual cells would not survive on their own. So he is 100% wrong that was a colony. It does not fit any definition of a colony that biologists put out there. It just doesn't. So if they could, there were some that were colonies, but they changed from single cellular to colony to true multicellularity. They couldn't survive on their own. Hello, Dave. Just 1 second, Dave. I do apologize, mate. I'm just going to call out Left-Handed Jedi with the 5 readerships going out there. I don't know if there's anyone left to have a readership, because Maximiliano Bisha came through and gave out like 2 sets of 50 or something. So I think everybody has one, but let's go. It's Silver Phoenix Rising, MFT Raw, Endora, Space, Potato, Jordan. Congratulations. Enjoy your emotes and other benefits. Thank you so much, Left-Handed Jedi. Really appreciate it.
Mark, LHJ said he was going to teach me his left-handed Jedi lightsaber style. I'm going to use it on Donnie in a sparring match with him. He ain't going to know what hit him. Let's go, LHJ.
Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hi, Dave. Yeah, sorry. Good to see you, Dave. What are your thoughts?
Good to see you.
How are you doing? Yeah, I haven't
What's up, Dave?
talked to you in ages, Dave. I'm glad you're still up and kicking.
Yeah, doing good. Channels keeps growing, so I'm happy there. And Just wanted to drop by and tell Austin he owes me big time for listening to Hovind for 2 hours tonight.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean,
look, I'm sorry, Dave. I wish you could fast forward and skip his.
Well, I could if I watched it later, but like I told you, I like to support people that do these incredible things for the rest of us, like you and Mark have done, and suffer through the Hovind debates for the rest of us. So it is appreciated.
Well, I
don't know if I did as well as Mark did. Mark crushed him.
Well, I won't debate him until he is no longer sort of on charges for DV. So I think that I don't. That's just me personally. So as soon as he gets that cleared up, let's go. I'm fine to go. But one way or another, it's got to be sorted out. Like seriously, you can't have that kind of a charge hanging over your head and get any modicum of respect from communities, as far as I'm concerned. But that's just me.
Now, Austin seemed to stick to what he wanted to do, and Hovind, just waits for his turn to talk as usual. So, that was the advice most of us gave to Austin is, no matter what you're going to do, try to stick to it. And he seemed to stick to what he wanted to do. Yep. So that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, because it's tough against him. You have to spew out all of the different brands of creationism, and then you got to spew out all the different brands of evolutionary biology, and you have to say, look, it's all a combination of all of these, and then maybe one of all but 3 of these, because you got young Earth creationism, old Earth creationism, intelligent design, all 3 of those unequivocally wrong.
And I thought it was amusing,
flawed, intellectually, mathematically, scientifically. There's no way it actually happened that way. So that
I thought it was amusing that he cited
and evolutionary biology, and you have to explain all of that to people who have like high school level understanding in 30 minutes while they're hostile to it intellectually.
I found it interesting that he cited an AIG article about the whales when generally him and Ken Ham don't mention each other much.
No, Ken Ham used to have an article in AIG sort of saying why you shouldn't listen to Kent Hovind. I think he took it down maybe a couple of years ago, but there was one up there saying do not use Kent Hovind's arguments kind of thing. I think maybe, and I mean, I don't know the man or know his mind, but I think maybe sort of Kent Hovind was making it difficult for them to make arguments against evolution because they are so bad. I mean, if you've heard his Luna Bukaki theory, that has got to be the most hilarious thing I have ever heard. The idea that, and who was it? It was, as much as I dislike the man, Steven Anderson absolutely railed him for it, that the ocean fountains of the deep and the flood opened up and shot rocks to hit the moon. Creating
was that the Walt Brown article? Is that the thing you're talking about?
No, Hovind thinks they blasted a bunch of ice into space, and when it came back, it pockmarked the moon and everything. And even Steven Anderson, who is just bloody awful, he told him that's just ridiculous. You can't blast rocks up into space. Who thinks you can do that, right?
Right.
Well, Hovind does.
Right. Hovind does, and he thinks there used to be, because he wanted to sort out the heat problem. The heat problem is a massive problem for the young Earth creationists because the Earth cannot be that old with the heat of radioactive decay and things like that. He thinks that there was an ice canopy. Well, yeah, tectonic movement, friction, geothermal heat. There's just a ton of heat to account for.
All of those things.
Well, he thinks there was an ice canopy around the Earth, right, that would cool the Earth somehow through ice. And the problem there is, do you know what happens when you put a transparent container over something that is getting sunlight?
Greenhouse,
right? Mm-hmm. It will heat up more. So his solution made the problem worse, which is just the funniest thing to me.
Well, this is the guy.
Oh, well, and it goes nowhere near fixing the problem.
No,
because all the freaking massive amounts of heat from tectonic movement and isometric decay, it equates to just enormous tidal waves of heat. It's enough to make the surface of the planet as hot as the surface of the sun. You can come up with all kinds of ideas.
You want to know how much he understands the heat?
Cool that.
Yeah, he thinks that ice coming in from space, hitting the Earth, froze the poles. He doesn't understand the heat problem at all, that a space rock does not hit and cause cold. Okay, it causes heat. But he thinks a big ice ball came along, and when it hit the Earth, it froze the poles. So this is the lack of any understanding that you're dealing with.
And that and just mathematically, even if I say, okay, yes, that's still 0.0001% of the heat you need to get the planet down to the surface of the sun. You're still nowhere close to solving the problem. You are arranging deck chairs on
a few degrees more.
Right, you're done. You're cooked on the age of the Earth.
Oh, we shaved off 5 degrees. What do you want?
Okay, well, I want to welcome Otangelo to the panel. Otangelo, I think we've had problems in the past, so I want to sort of give you a chance to speak and bring out points, but I don't want 10 million at a time. Okay, we're just going to discuss one point, no filibustering, no talking for ages with nobody being able to respond. Want a back and forth conversation, okay? Is that acceptable to you?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me well?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm just listening to your arguments, so I have not much to say, and I've really not studied the heat problem of the flood, so I cannot add much to that topic.
It's quite fascinating, actually. It's sort of our understanding of radioactive decay mostly accounts for most of the heat. Yeah.
That's an ironic one.
Did you see the debate? What did you think of the debate? Do you have any
comments? I just saw that you guys were online, so I joined, but I've not seen the debate.
Okay, well, it was about evolution, and Kent Hovind was debating on, is there reasonable evidence for evolution? Do you have anything to add to that topic?
Well, I've written a book on evolution. I'm actually now studying cell fate and differentiation. And I think that in order to understand biocomplexity and how organismal architecture is instantiated, you'll need to look into biochemistry, into the small stuff, into cell, on the level of cells and inside cells, what happens there. And once you actually understand the mechanisms, then you can actually start to think about how this kind of complexity could have come to be instantiated.
Okay. Well, Otangelo, we're not really doing origin of life, it's evolution, right? Do you
That's
understand the difference?
That's what I am talking about. In order for you to understand how complex organisms are built and develop, you need actually also to look into biochemistry and into microbiology, because that's where the action happens, and there the mechanisms are which instantiate biocomplexity. And once you have an understanding on that level, then you can actually go and start to try to find out how these things and these mechanisms could have been instantiated. If evolution, especially on a gene level, is an adequate explanation.
I think Jonathan, Dr. Jonathan Starperty, and
just one second, Chris. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. We're talking about evolution. So evolution assumes that the life is already there and it's just developing, like common ancestry. So it sounds like you're saying why evolution can't work is like, and I did, using the terms like built, which assumes begging the question that this was in fact built and didn't just form naturally. So I kind of think that
this was in fact built.
Just 1 second. Evolution. Just 1 second. All right, let's go. So like the whole point is that we're really, I mean, we can talk about abiogenesis if you want, but really we're talking about evolution. Do you understand the difference between those?
Well, I've all along, since I came in, I am talking about evolution and not about abiogenesis.
Okay, so what in cell structure prevents evolution, prevents an organism from diversifying from a common ancestor?
Well, first of all, the fact that, for example, viruses are polyphyletic and not monophyletic is something which is recognized by science. Okay, so that is a very important point. A second important point in regards of universal common ancestry is you have the proposal that at the beginning there was just one phyla, which then started to diversify. But the problem here is that if you don't have a minimal cell population of at least 10,000 individuals, then you will have what is called Muller's ratchet, or the mutations. They will basically kill the population if it's smaller than 10,000 units. And so you need at least this population. And this is already a big problem. How do you get right from the start or off the hook such a big size population? You cannot get it if you start from one unit, because it would die. And if you have less numbers, they will die because there is no enough genetic diversity, and you need genes.
Yeah, for sure. That happens.
When you think the
like a bunch
DNA
of
repair
times.
system
And
as well?
And
most,
plus, didn't you
pretty much
start from one
everything
cell
that's alive
Angelo?
today are the ones that didn't get mutated too much, that didn't get attenuated too much in population levels. I'm confused. What are you talking
didn't you
about?
start from one cell Angelo?
Well, of course, there are some models or hypotheses that life started with the population, but then the problem is, how do you get that population?
And how do you get around a DNA repair system, which would correct errors or mutations in the DNA?
Yeah, you need that from the start.
Error repair system is just natural selection and survival. If you have a functional genome, you survive and you pass on your genetic material. If you don't, you go to a little place called extinction. And that's pretty much the repair mechanism for the most part, as far as I understand it. What was Otangelo's question?
Well, hang on one second.
I don't even know what he's talking about.
And I do have a question that's tangentially related to this. So when you say, hey, if we just had one of each organism, it would die, it wouldn't be able to propagate. That describes the arc perfectly about having, two of each animal, male and female. Like, so
right. That's a fantastic point.
What you've
Mark.
described sort of proves the Bible. And Sydney has a question that's related, so maybe we can address both of these. How do you explain the necessary hyper-evolution or speciation after the Noah's Ark story?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I don't know how to answer it.
Okay, that's all right. What about mine, that the Bible has one of each animal, yet we don't get them dying?
That's a good point, Mark. And my immediate question is, if you don't understand it, is evolution one of the possibilities? Because it seems to explain it pretty well, at least to like the entire scientific community. And
maybe I'm confused. What's wrong with
this chat?
What's wrong with the rapid speciation after the flood? Maybe I'm confused on the question.
Well, they sort of say that
there's no mechanism.
Well, there's no mechanism.
Unless you want the mechanism to be God's miracles. I mean, we're already over the rainbow at that point.
Just making sure we're on the same page.
Yeah,
so you're
call
saying
the mechanism a miracle. But then you're still just.
Well, hold on, Austin. Let Chris talk. And I want to introduce you, Chris. This is Chris. I don't think we've met before. Welcome to the panel. Good to see you. So I'll just let you sort of explain what you mean about why isn't rapid speciation a problem. What do you mean by that?
I just want to make sure we're using the same terminology.
Sure.
So when I think of speciation, I'm thinking of variation within kind. Is that the same thing you all are thinking, or are you thinking macroevolution?
Well, I'm not sure what a kind is. It sort of depends on who you talk to what a kind can be.
So let's go with taxonomy related to family.
Okay,
Is that
that's
okay?
fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, in
Okay.
order to get the level of speciation we have, it would have to be ultra rapid speciation occurring.
For sure.
But
And we're still at ape ancestry. Humans are apes.
all right. So then going back to what I was asking before, rapid speciation or rapid variations within kind would depend on what you believe the ratio would be. But we don't have a number for that.
What do you mean the ratio? What do you mean by that?
As in the diversity or the rapid, or I shouldn't say rapid, the diversity of changes or how quickly the changes accelerate. If you want to say speciation is changes, I'm okay with that.
Well, you're really talking about the substitution rate.
Yeah.
I guess you could say that. And so the question would be,
I think you might be.
Do we have a chart or some metrics or some data that tells us how rapidly the speciation happened?
What, back
If you
then
don't-
or now?
Yeah, no, back then. Because if you say,
Back then.
oh, go ahead.
Well, yeah, what it would have to be is an incredibly rapid substitution rate. So mutation rate versus substitution rate is basically, mutation rate is how often mutations occur within the genome, how often these mutations actually come up, but that doesn't matter. What really matters is how much those mutations are actually fixed into the genome, so a new species is fixed, right? Because if you get,
And it has to be passed on, right?
Right. So really, when it becomes a normal part of that species genome,
Hereditary.
that is when it has been, we call it the substitution rate. So the mutation rate can be quite high and the substitution rate doesn't have to be. So really the substitution rate now is absolutely nowhere near where it would need to be to get the amount of species from the amount of animals that could have fit on the ark. You would need a substitution rate probably 10 times easily in the range that we see now. So just to finish, Chris, let me finish. Just to finish
sorry
up,
about that.
what you would have to have is an insanely fast substitution rate, and then it slows down for some reason. And to us, we don't know why we would believe that.
Got it. So you're saying,
And definitely
there's no known mechanism today that would give you that.
Signs, because we have the construction of the past from our biomolecular elements. We have these. Sorry, I'm just sifting through all of my books here for the important one, chemistry one. This one, right?
Book on my,
so if things developed way faster, we have all these like virological markers, right? Like from these diseases that you've survived. And some of these are extinct, but some of them are still out there. And they could be killing you if you didn't have these like inherited immunities, right? So why are the inherited immunities in there in that way? It just seems like old Earth evolution. You're telling me there was this, like Mark said, super acceleration. But how did that happen at a super accelerated rate? Was God picking up viruses and dropping them around and like rolling the? It's so rabbit out of the hat. Why not?
Yeah.
Evolutionary creation, the God that creates a complex nature, or a universe that's capable of complexifying. That would be my question. But Mark, you had a valid question too.
Well, Spielkeb has just mentioned somebody, and I think this reads about true. Someone calculated it had to be 12 species a day on speciation coming from the ark in order to make that work for the amount of species, especially things like insects, which we have.
Yeah.
So many species.
It's just kind of wooden. It is very much like arranging deck chairs on the Titanic. I don't see why we can't just go theistic evolution with it. If you're theistic evolution, like I'm on board. Like I have no problem with that.
That's fine.
That was even kind of the position I was arguing in favor of with Kent tonight. I made that point. I'm an atheist, but I read the Bible. I like the Bible. I like religion. I like Jesus. He seems like a cool character.
Austin,
you know, I can see
believe
the positive in it. I don't know if I would say I would like or love
we're
it,
kind of,
but
we're kind of Austin. We're kind of going away from the evolution into sort of theology at the moment. I'd like to come back and allow Chris. Just hold that thought for 1 second, Chris. I just want to welcome Evolution the fact and see if he's still broadcasting. I'm terribly sorry, Evolution. You were broadcasting when I pulled you in, so I muted you for a second. Are you actually? I can't. Okay, so you have to unmute yourself at this point. I've allowed it, so you should be able to unmute yourself if you want to. More than happy for you to. But I do apologize. It's just a lot of noise was coming through. Just didn't want to. Chris, so sorry, mate. Go for it. What did you have to say to Austin on that one?
If I remember, I think the clarifying question for you, Austin, for me, so I can understand, I guess, your position. Do you believe that? Oh, sorry. I'm trying to remember what you just repeat what you just got done saying. Just
sorry, that's my fault. That's 100% my fault. I do apologize.
So Mark said that if how is rapid speciation going to happen? What's the mechanism and why did it stop? And I said, even if it happens, you're going to have signs. You're going to have evidence from when it happened and how it happened.
I remember what
because we have all these viruses. We have all these virological markers. It is the very structure of our DNA that tells the story of our past. And there's no, I think the naturalistic interpretation of it is the most solid one for sure. If you're saying there's a God behind all that who are orchestrated it, whatever, maybe. I don't debate that. Is what I meant by the theistic evolution stuff.
In regards to that, would you be willing to grant that certain genes are activated under certain conditions? Would you be willing to grant that?
100%. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So certain things, certain proteins, certain paths, DNA paths, I guess I'll call it that, or gene paths. No, I should say DNA paths. Those could be activated based on certain environments that organism ends up landing in after the arc. As a result, that could be a mechanism for this rapid speciation, as you might call it. I don't know if I would actually give it that term, but would that be reasonable in your eyes?
Sorry, you got interrupted a little bit by some echoing there.
Yeah, Evolution. I'm gonna remove you. I'm really sorry. Maybe sort out your mic. Come back to us. We can't have you echoing in the room. I'm sorry.
Would you be willing? I'm gonna try to summarize what I was saying. Would you be willing to acknowledge that as a potential catalyst or potential reason for the rapid speciation? Is that they're in different environments, and so different environmental pressures causing
punctuated equilibrium, specific pressures effectively producing more change more quickly,
or it affecting the DNA and activating things that otherwise would lay dormant.
You're at miracles
if the conditions wasn't. What do you say?
You're at miracles. You're at God picking up his pen and changing
that happens now, right?
lines of the code.
Not necessarily that happens now.
Right? That's where I'm at with it.
No, and that's fair, Mark. And that's fair.
Now.
And Mark, that is fair. But I'm asking Austin, would he be willing to grant that? I'm guessing I'm hearing a no. He doesn't think that would cause speciation.
Grant that there may be epigenetics which cause that level of mutation.
So you're asking a question that's effectively about the major crux of evolution that we were talking about earlier. That there's multiple different theories about it. There's Darwinian gradualism. There's punctuated equilibrium, and you're basically asking a punctuated equilibrium question. And I'm saying, I'm not really personally much of a punctuated equilibrium guy. I don't really see that so much. I think it's all just kind of natural selection, and you don't really have to put a demarcation between them for it to be evolution. I mean, it's still evolution either way.
Sorry, if we're talking about
but
speciation,
if you're saying God is the mechanism behind punctuated equilibrium, there's no way for that, for sure. I definitely don't believe that. Unless you're saying he did it.
Let's get back on the same track. Let's get back on the same
goal.
track. What are you asking Austin to grant, Chris? What exactly are you asking him? Because you're sounding like you've got a premise that you want to have granted in order to discuss something further.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I think I'm trying to keep in mind what we were saying about speciation, or at least maybe what I was saying about speciation, is that it's change or variation within a kind, and we agreed that kind can generally be equated to family. I don't think it's every
And
time,
kind
but
is family
in general, kind of family.
taxonomic level.
And so if it's variation within family, then the changes may not need to be that dramatic for you to get a different species or a different variation within that kind. That's what I'm asking, if he's willing to grant that. That's all I'm asking.
Well, species is it's it's a label. I mean, you could
That's kind of
call
why I'm asking that question.
every single breed of dog a different species, even though they can all interbreed if you wanted to define it that way. I don't think it works better that way.
Okay.
What
And
is
that's why
what is the relevance of the question?
Because if we're speaking of change within a kind, or variation within a kind, just like what you said, a variation could be a chameleon no longer can change into a particular color. That would make it a new species, perhaps. That could be
Depending on
something
how
that
you wanted to
is
define the species concept. We currently wouldn't define it that way because it doesn't make sense to define it that way, because that wouldn't affect a chameleon's ability to reproduce. At least we can't produce actual data by testing chameleon populations and seeing if that would happen. That's it's kind of
Spilkeb
an
is
extreme
suggesting
hypothetical,
that
and I
all
think
of
you're
these,
kind of
like,
toying with definitions a little bit.
Are you trying to say that all of these genes that form how we order species were already there and they're just being turned on by epigenetics? Is that what you're suggesting, Chris?
That is what I was asking, if Austin was willing to grant as a possibility. That's what I'm asking. So yes, the way you said it is acceptable to me.
I haven't studied that specifically, so I won't say.
Fair enough.
So
that's the first time I've had that particular dilemma presented to me.
If that is the case, then why don't we see the same genetic?
I actually work with an epigeneticist, so I'll ask him.
Why don't we see the same genetic structures, the same across all animals? Like, because you're saying, hey, they're all there.
Yeah, I would.
If
of course,
they're the same and epigenetics is turning them on and off, we should just see, we should see a much higher similarity between all animals, because the epigenetic part that turns it on and off is actually quite small. It's the coding that is actually much larger.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think we're talking about the same thing with the initial thing you said when you said we would see it more consistently or more frequently throughout all the animals. I think is what you said.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't hold that position, or I wouldn't be trying to say that. And the reason being is my assumption is that again, being a creation, I obviously have a presupposition just like you all do. I would assume that kind started with DNA and had certain markers in it that would then allow for certain parts of the DNA to be cut on and cut off. So I don't think it would be consistent for every kind, or I don't think it would be the same kind of changes for every kind, or the same variability within the DNA for every kind.
Why not?
It wouldn't.
If it's just epigenetics and not the coding DNA that's being sort of turned on and off, then all of it should be the same, with just the epigenetic parts turning it on and off.
The instructions, or the amount of instruction changes, have limits because of what I was bringing up earlier related to DNA repair systems.
So
my question. Oh, go ahead.
Well, my question would be, why can't we say get DNA from megafauna or dinosaurs and see if they have the same structure? Yeah, why?
Just to make sure I understood your question. You're asking why can't we get DNA from, I guess,
Megafauna.
really old DNA samples and then do what with them? Are you saying code all of
Or
or
do a
get the
comparative
genome
study,
for
yeah.
them or?
Or just do a comparative study, sure, on the coding regions.
Oh, I don't know. I would assume the decay rate of DNA would be a reason why you couldn't.
But the
It
dinosaurs
wouldn't be
and the
complete.
megafauna, how old are they? What, 4,000 years, 3,000 something years?
Yeah,
Why
definitely
can't we
thousands,
just?
not millions.
Well, yeah, I mean they're the same age as everything else, right? Humans have only been around for the same time, roughly, as animals, right?
You're breaking up a little bit. You said the same age
Oh, you
as
said
what?
millions of years?
No, I would hold to the position that dinosaurs are thousands of years old, not millions of years old.
Okay. So why can't we just get the DNA of dinosaurs and compare them with modern DNA?
That was what I was just responding to. I think
Yeah.
my opinion of it would be that the decay rates would still be in effect, and so we would lose information because the DNA is decaying over
Mark,
time. That would be my
he
assumption.
believes in a very, very deceitful God, is basically what he's saying.
Well, no, let's not tell people what they think and what they're trying to say.
If I'm not
I guess what I'm
mistaken,
saying is
DNA breaks down over
I
time,
just
right? And we
sure.
lose some information because it is decaying. It's losing its ability to
Key
hold.
problem.
sure, but wait a
Problem.
second. Hold on a
Done
second.
for.
Hold on a second.
I'm assuming
But-
loss of
but-
information would prevent us from doing that.
How many dinosaur fossils do you think we found?
Lots.
Right. So many. And we have not had a single scrap of DNA from any of them. Not a scrap. Right? Not a tiny bit, nothing.
Oh, Mary Schweitzer didn't find any DNA?
Mary
We got
Schweitzer,
proteins.
yeah, so this is where she wrote on her
Brian
paper
Thompson
that
didn't find any DNA?
no, hold on, let me finish, Chris. Mary Schweitzer wrote on her paper for Young Earth Creationists to stop using her work to misrepresent her. She had to write that
I
on
know
her
that.
paper.
I know that.
You've
I
been
asked that question in good faith.
absolutely about what her paper says, because she found soft tissue, which was fossilized collagen, when she had to basically bathe it in acid for ages. She found proteins. She did not find any genetic material. That's a lie. No blood cells.
She found
no genetic
robust
material.
biomolecules, collagen, chitin,
Okay. And so
things that were capable of preserving for a very long time under extremely rare geological conditions.
I guess my question is, why do we find all the DNA for, say, mammoth and thylacine, extinct animals? We find human DNA, we find bird DNA, we find all this DNA from animals going back ages. Even fossilized ones that have been slightly fossilized. Dinosaurs and things that the evolutionary model says, hey, they're so old, you won't find that DNA. We suddenly don't find it anymore. Why is that?
I was actually under the impression that Brian Thomas did find DNA, but
do you have a paper for that?
No, I don't. I will actually have to look that up again. I'll just concede and say I don't know. I don't have an answer to your question. That's
what's
all.
his name? Brian Thomas. Thomas? How do you spell that? Do you know how to spell that?
Yeah, Brian. It's if you go to icr.org,
You
Brian
should
Thomas.
look up Gutsick Gibbons' video on it, Chris.
So, Chris, have you ever read the mission statement for ICR?
Gutsick Gibbons.
I have. It was a long time ago, though.
My girl, she's got it covered.
Yeah, I read it a long time ago.
She's one of my favorite YouTubers on this subject, Chris. Have you ever checked out her channel?
What's her name?
Gutsick Gibbon.
Gibbon,
I guess there's a delay between.
The one and only Gutsick Gibbon, the very gentle and modern ape. She's awesome.
She's a paleoanthropologist, I believe. No, a paleo.
Yeah.
Paleo. Oh God, she deals with the history of apes, basically. God, what is she? Is she a paleo? No, she's not a paleoanthropologist. She's a paleo. Someone help me.
Oh, Chris, is this true? Joe's telling me in the chat that you write for creationist organizations. Is that true?
No, I wish I did. I would if someone gave me an
No,
opportunity.
that's that Brian from ICR. He
Oh,
Yeah,
he's
right,
talking
right.
about your source. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, she's a primatologist. Thank you
Yes,
so
Eric
much.
is a
Primatologist.
primatologist. Yeah.
he also thinks dragons are real. So I mean, how good of a scientist he is. I mean, there you go.
What's wrong with dragons? That
Yeah.
was the term that they used before the term dinosaur was invented. Y'all should know that.
The problem is they're
Absolutely
lying
nothing,
because
Chris. No one writes dragon.
they're putting the image of people into people's minds that it's a flying reptile that breathes fire, when clearly almost every definition in the Bible for a dragon is a serpent. Has nothing to do with dragon or dinosaurs.
Oh, that's getting into theology, but when we just speak about dragons, that word didn't exist, or not, it didn't exist. We stopped using a word like that to talk about dinosaurs after the 1800s. So I'm not, I
Right.
mean,
Yeah, that does say
it's
they
not really.
they conflated those words, but their excuse is that dragon is in the Bible a bunch of times, and man lived with dinosaurs is their whole argument. And I just happen to be working on a video on this right now, and I have all the Bible verses looked up, and not one of them is describing a dinosaur. So basically what they're doing is they're putting an image in people's minds of a very large animal akin to what you would see in the movies with the knight slaying the dragon to save the princess, when even Ken Ham says he likes to cite Strong's definition, and you use the most popular one. You don't go all the way down and find one you like at the bottom. And guess which one Ken Ham used? The one all the way at the bottom. The one at the top from the source he cites is, again, dragon is a serpent. So they're talking about a snake when they talk about dragons. So
I guess
it's on my mind. It's on my mind, so I thought I'd get it out.
Oh, yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah, I would just see those as two different things. You have extra biblical use of the word dragon, and then you have biblical use of the word dragon. And
right. Well,
they're not contradictory.
ICR is fibbing about it, including that Brian fellow there. So
Dragons were
just
what we
pointing
would
out.
call dinosaurs today.
So what?
Well, hold on 1 second. I just want to sort of say, because we're getting off topic again. I think from our point of view, that ICR, when they sort of say, we foundationally for our research believe in the inerrant word of the Bible, right? So what that says to me is that no matter what the evidence that they find, the Bible is still right, regardless of that evidence. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I would say that's wrong, in the sense that
why is that?
If what would be said more accurately is that all the assumption is the starting assumption, and that would be more charitable if you wanted to say it that way, Mark. The starting assumption is that the Bible is accurate in all it says. If there was empirical evidence, and that's the key part, empirical evidence that pointed to the contrary, then they would have to go with what it says. Period.
You know what? That leads
that's
fantastic
that is the
into my
position.
point, which is, I want some empirical evidence. Let's find these DNA sequences that make some dragons and freaking clone us some dragons. I want to ride a dragon into war.
You can't.
That
you wouldn't be
sounds
able to do that
awesome.
even if
Let's
we found the
do
DNA,
it,
right?
bro.
Jurassic Park is fake.
Well, I would agree with you. I prefer theologians like William Lane Craig that flat out say they don't buck up against science. They don't try to argue against science. They don't call all the scientists liars like the creationist organizations do. So if you can keep your theology in theology and not call the scientists liars, I don't have a problem with them promoting their theology.
Well, for being fair, you can't monopolize.
The problem, Chris, I just want to add to this. The problem is that inerrant word of God, right? So when we go about looking at the evidence, sorry,
the Bible is inerrant.
That's the problem. When we go about looking, Chris, when we go about looking at the evidence and saying, okay, what happened here, kind of thing, and say, okay, we're going to observe what's happening in the world around us. We're going to get the evidence, and nothing is ever inerrant. If evidence comes along to change our minds, if that can be demonstrated scientifically, that will change our minds. Nothing is inerrant. It's all up for debate and discussion. If we said, hey, evolution's inerrant, it has to be the truth and nothing will ever change our minds, that's called a dogmatic belief. Right? It's called a dogmatic assertion.
That's not
because
what
you're doing is you are. Well, let me finish. Let me finish. So the problem with that is that if scientific research has been conducted and they find something which disagrees with the Bible or casts shadow on the Bible, they will present it in such a way that confirms the truth of the Bible, not what the evidence says. Because all of the scientific institutions, they will have the goal of going with wherever the evidence leads, no matter what it is. So to us, it's a bit of a problem when you're saying, well, the underlying assumption is all of this previous stuff is true. Now, science isn't doing that. It's saying, we've got this world around us. What do we observe? How can we put that into practice of observing the evidence? And what does it tell us about the world? And if other evidence comes up to contradict it, that's fine. Like people said, the world was millions of years old. We found out that's not true. It's fine. It's not inerrant. It's up for speculation. So why should we believe a source that has already assumed something that we see contradicts with the world around us?
So the answer to your question is that I just wouldn't accept what you're drawing as the conclusion. It doesn't contradict what we're seeing, if I heard you correctly. It doesn't contradict what we're seeing in the world. As a matter of fact, the empirical evidence, which was the point of the debate that Austin was having, the empirical evidence does not give you evolutionism. It does not give you macroevolution. A perfect example of that, again, and hopefully we can agree with these things, a perfect example of that is finding things that have stasis, that are done evolving. How is it possible to be finished evolving 200 million years, so-called years, 200 million so-called years ago? How's that possible?
Stasis doesn't mean no change. It means very little change or very slow change.
However,
Sorry, I had a
you
call.
would like to word it,
So homeostasis
that would be an example.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
no, if you're well suited for your environment, you don't change.
Yeah, so
is another example of evolution.
Yeah, and so living fossils are an example
homeostasis doesn't
of what.
As pointed out, there is Chris. Like, but here's the thing: homeostasis does occur, but as pointed out, it doesn't mean no change. It's like we count sharks as being in homeostasis, but there were megalodons that we're including in that, massive giant sharks, and we have the fossils for them. What is an example of what you think is a modern fossil? What's an example of that?
I brought that up.
There's several species of coelacanths. So,
a coelacanth?
Yeah, it did speciate.
Saying
so.
a coelacanth is like saying a carnivora, which coelacanth?
Right.
I mean,
I think there's
bring
four.
Up anything that's in the
I think there was four.
That still exists, right?
Coelacanth is a family of animals, right?
Yes, and we still call them coelacanths. They're still of the same
just
kind.
Give me 1 second.
And that's kind of my point. There's a delay as well.
But they're still speciating. Yeah, I'm having trouble with nothing. I'm just gonna go out and then come back in. Just feel free to carry on. I will be back in 1 second.
Another one that's often pointed out is the horseshoe crab. It's a living fossil, but again, it's speciated. So they changed enough to speciate, and that's macro evolution. You can't get any more macro than a new species, right?
So I would say that's microevolution when you have change or variation within kind. Macroevolution when you have one kind going to another kind, dogs, cats, that kind of thing.
Right. Was a new species, would you call a new kind
No,
the
he
question
said
again.
he said
Is
he
a
puts
new
species
species a
at
new
the
kind?
family level.
Is a new
means
species a
that
new
humans
kind?
are
It
apes.
depends on the level of variation or the level of change.
Well, as far as science goes, species is the end of the line. There's nothing beyond that. So if you get a new species, you're as macro as you can be.
Yeah, for sure. As macro as you can be in an observable human time spans, but we've got this big thing called the geological column that has like all these really, really different species at the very deepest part of it. Not a single one that looks like a modern species. And then stacked up on top of it, it's really weird. There's all these other like progressively younger species that also progressively get more like modern species. It's really weird. It almost looks like evolution.
Yeah, all the terms like stasis just is slow.
Okay.
Punctuated
Guys,
equilibrium is
Dave,
fast, but it's still evolution.
Sorry, Dave. Sorry, I have to interrupt. We're not going to dogpile Chris. I want to have him have a chance to respond instead of people just sort of coming in over the top of one another. So just quickly, a bit of truth. Welcome to the panel. I'll ask in a second after I hear from Chris what you thought of the debate. But Chris, go ahead if you do want to respond.
Yeah, so I think I was responding to, I guess, examples on why it would be fitting to say that the empirical evidence points to there being no macro evolution. And one of the examples I gave was the fact that we see, as you all pointed out, homeostasis or living fossils still, so to speak, running around. The idea behind there being so little change, to use your language, that it stays the same kind is in my eyes, a clear evidence that evolutionism is not even plausible. And again, as I brought up before, you have DNA repair mechanisms that prevent drastic change. Too much change kills the organism. These are things we can't get around, that we don't know how to get around scientifically.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Too much change, but we're talking about a slow, gradual change over time, not a quick. This doesn't change quickly.
But that's not observed, right? Like that's the issue. Is it's not empirical. That's faith. That's faith in the changes changing so much that eventually it'll be a different kind. That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, if you mean observed as in seen, then no, but we don't say observed when we're saying, hey, we just have to see it. Like we can't observe see a black hole, but we can observe one by the evidence we have of gravity fluctuations and things like that. No one's ever seen Pluto go round the sun, but we know from the evidence that it will go round the sun. So we have observed the evidence that leads us to these conclusions. And sort of saying it's faith isn't true because it's all based on that evidence. What faith is saying, well, because my book is true, that evidence cannot possibly be counted as evidence. And that's what you guys are doing.
One response to that. Let me give you an example. There is a test
I think
that was done with fruit flies.
Let's hear from somebody else. I think that's.
I'll see you
is
later.
that fair?
Thanks for letting me on.
No. Austin, let Chris say something, and then we'll go around the room. I'll be a bit better at moderation. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to work a tech problem.
Austin's fine. I got to roll. I appreciate y'all letting me on, though.
Okay, Chris. Well, thank you so much. I hope it wasn't too brutal for you.
I'm fine to hear more from you, but I want to give someone else a turn for a while. And maybe we'll come back.
That's fair.
All right. Well, do we want to go to Bit of Truth? And thanks, Chris. Really appreciate it, mate.
I'm sorry. I don't want to run you off.
Or whatever.
Oh, no, you're fine. I'll talk to you later.
Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I was going to talk to Chris and I couldn't have any opportunity to talk to him, but that's fine. I was going to say that you explained very well difference between the faith and the science. They both are entirely different. When my Bible or my book says God created Adam from clay, that's where is my belief, because I don't have to search if there is evidence or not. But the science is a fact because science, do the experiment, observe, and then write the theory. That's what the theory is a fact. So that's entirely a different thing. And I was just gonna ask him if he can provide me the Adam fossil or Eve fossil. Also, I was gonna provide him the evidences, survival of the fittest, which we have it right now. As of now, the cave fish or cave creatures who lost their eyes. Initially, the scientists, they thought that there was a mutation. That's how they lost their eye. But when they studied that closely, they found there was epigenetic. The gene was switched off. And this is where we understand the lack of environmental pressure. That's how the fishes, they lost their eyes, or the other creatures, because now we know how we look at the object, how it reflects back into our brain, into the electrical signal that's changed it into the image. That's how we see the things. When the brain is not receiving that, then our gene is going to be act. Either it's going to mutate or silence that gene. And whenever they go back into the same environment, this will switch on and then it starts working on. And the same thing in our gene, our genetics are about 97. We know 97% DNA is junk. We have a 97% junk DNA, and that's from our ancestry. We know that because we look at the gene from other fossils, where we extract the gene and we read that, and they were active on that time, but right now it's inactive. Either they are broken gene, or there is inactive viruses or inactive gene. That's exactly is telling us our ancestry. When we look at our genetic inheritance, it's going to take us back to our ancestry. So these all the evidences that's telling that evolution is a fact. It's not a theory, it's not a myth. But religion, of course, they are myth. There is no science, there is no scientific data which can prove that Adam was the first person, or the Eve can born from a young man ribs. So that's all I need to talk to him. But thank you, Mark, you take me in.
Yeah, I do apologize. I'm just having some tech issues, and Chris, I do apologize, mate. If you have a link, just give it to me, because people are interested in seeing your opinions and
For sure.
sort of.
I'm sorry, I got a little frustrated there. I will admit I got a little frustrated there because I just spent 2 hours debating Hovind, who for sure doesn't know the subject. But Brian pointed out that Chris does know the subject a little bit, and I did not mean to rush him off, but I'm really glad I asked, can somebody else have a turn to talk a little bit here on this panel? Because Bitter is exactly 100% right here. And I knew as I was listening to him talk that I myself was coming up with so many arguments why this guy was wrong as he was talking, that I was starting to forget all of them. And that's kind of why I was starting to interrupt him a little bit, Mark. I'm sorry.
We also do have... Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And I would, Rob, and I absolutely would, but I didn't get one from him. And I did he actually type in chat? I may be able to pull it from the chat thing. No, this is entirely my fault. It's just I'm struggling to do two things at once. If you want to be my producer, I'm joking. I'm joking. It's okay.
We all need a producer, Mark.
Yeah, I know. Where's producer Wes when you need him? Yeah, sorry about that. But if he's put in something in the chat, yeah, he hasn't. I can't see anything.
Well, I wanted to answer his self-correction thing, that redundancy can be an emergent property of the evolution of DNA. So it can self-correct itself by being redundant just by having extra copies. So redundancy doesn't seem to be too difficult to explain.
Well, we had a really good question that I didn't even get to from, I can't remember who it was. I can probably find it. They asked, what about the bacteria in our gut? So I think they're talking about, and I don't remember the term, when one sort of species swallows another one and then they work in sort of cooperation with one another. It's something, endosymbiosis. Is that the right word? I got the right word? Is my brain word?
Sounds right.
Endosymbiosis. That
organism gets folded into the anatomy of another microorganism, basically.
Yes. So that was a question on sort of what do you think of endosymbiosis, or if I can find the comment, it was sort of what do you think about gut bacteria living in our gut kind of thing.
We have
Have you lost
hundreds
me, Jeff?
of. Okay.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
What was the question again? What do I think of gut bacteria?
Yes.
They're asking what evolved first, us or our gut bacteria? The chicken or egg creationist thing that they ask all the time.
Sure.
I think probably the gut
we're
bacteria.
just hosts for bacteria.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Well, we have in our cell, mitochondria and some other
Yeah.
organelles. They are actually originally a bacteria. They emerge through the endosymbiosis when the one single cell prokaryote eat that, but they couldn't digest it. That's where it take a room in there, and they are still sitting in our, cell. And there is a multiple organelles similar that those are the evidences. That's how the endosymbiosis happen. And we read the cell, we check and observe the cell, and we found a lot of things. They were actually bacteria, and that's how the endosymbiosis happened. And it's emerged into from prokaryote to eukaryote, and that's why we call it endosymbiosis happen. And that's where the eukaryote invented from the single cell. We have also checked through the single cells like algae and other cells, the prokaryotes, which emerge and make a multicellular organ. And that's how the scientists, they know that endosymbiosis happen.
So Bitter, can I ask?
Yep.
Are you a geneticist? You seem very knowledgeable about the subject.
No, I just read the article that's based upon talk, and I read a lot of articles. I follow a lot of geneticists in my family. Yes, we do have geneticists who work in Northwestern and other hospitals, and they are very knowledgeable. I'm sitting with them when I have a question. I'm asking them, and I'm getting all of the knowledge based upon the articles or those people who I learned. But originally, yes, I work in the hospital, but I'm not, biologist or anything like that.
And just one single cell swallowing another, you all of a sudden now have unicellular, you have symbiosis, you have the opportunity to change the genetics in replication, right? You have all these things that can occur just from one swallowing another, as Bitter was explaining. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
And there was no intent there. That thing was just swallowing something else like it does anything else that got in its way, right? And it just worked out well. Yeah.
That is absolutely correct.
We have a modern version of this. We actually observed it where a bacteria tried to eat something and it couldn't digest it, so they started working together. I can't remember what it was, but I remember reading about it.
Bitter, I wanted to say in the moment while we have this lull, I love the point that you made about the Bible when you first started talking about how you've never felt the need to test the Bible. I love that.
Yeah, and if you look at how Jesus born from a virgin, that's impossible. There is no way the female can birth a male without seeing a Y chromosome, and the Y chromosome come from a male. It could be possible the X chromosome, but I don't think even that's possibility. It is only by asexual, binary fission. But when we talk about the virgin can birth a male, that's just a vague. That's not the true, and there is no scientific data that can support that type of belief. So belief doesn't have any single evidence. Belief based upon hypothesis or based upon fake stories. That's all we are listening, and that's all we are listening for decades.
And everyone has a different opinion about which is better than which. I like the utilitarian ones more.
Well, I think that sort of the virgin birth story. I don't think they're claiming that scientific. I think they really do rely on miracle for that.
Some do, Mark. Some do. Some point at parthenogenesis and insects and say, see, virgin birth. Because there is some species of insects that have parthenogenesis. I believe that is accurate. If somebody else wants to search me up on that and hold my feet to the fire, because I'm not 100%. I remember seeing a source on Facebook once.
Yeah, so the thing that we're talking about was Nitro Plus. They were what was it? It was a sort of a one cell enveloping another, and now they're working together. One produces nitrogen and one sort of does photosynthesis kind of thing. N2 fixing organelle. So the cell that it swallowed became a organelle or a organ of the cell, which is it's
very analogous to what happened with our mitochondria.
Yep. And welcome to Maxed Out and Immutable Destiny. I think Immutable just beat you in Maxed Out, so I'm going to ask Immutable what were your thoughts on the debate. Bit of truth, I'll go to you after Max. So just hold that thought, mate.
Oh, I didn't see it. I was unfortunately in transit. I mean, I was just kind of hearing some of the talk with endosymbiosis and stuff like that, and that's a very kind of interesting topic. It kind of relates to various parts of like origin of life, not in the sense of like the first life, but how do you go from this kind of this phase of kind of like, and it's present even it's denoted even kind of like in the record of the rocks that like for a very, very long time when you have life, right, a lot of it is like single celled life, mostly like cyanobacteria that are doing photosynthesis. But then, like after 2 billion years or whatever it is, I mean, you get this, new emergence of eukaryotic life. And
that's
like
that's fascinating, Immutable.
Yeah, and it's a really bizarre thing because you would, one's tempted to think that like, hey, if you get life, right, prokaryotic life and eukaryotic life shouldn't hard to jump like from one to another. But like as far as like the last time I studied this, my background, for instance, is that my original major was chemistry, so I still have a good retention of like knowledge from chem and biochem. But currently,
that's where you can explain the Cambrian explosion, how that happened over millions and millions of years ago. Can you explain that, please?
The Cambrian explosion?
Yes.
What particularly about it? I mean,
like Edacurean to Cambrian explosion, that's where we find multicellular organism and how they,
So what I mean by what I mean is I mean the first like single cellular like eukaryotic life. I don't mean quite yet like the kind of diversity present within like Cambrian, like within like Cambrian and like Precambrian. Okay. So I'm talking about like fully fledged like eukaryotic organisms like E. coli or stuff like that.
But we can see, the vertebrate, how the vertebrate form over 500 million years ago, and that's where the vertebrate started. And Tiktaalik is the one which was missing link, and then we found the Tiktaalik, how it emerged onto the earth, the dry land from the water.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other like you would have to probably talk to somebody that understands taxonomy to a fair degree better than I do.
Yeah,
a lot of it, because like Tiktaalik is one of the major transitions, but there's a lot of others that come before it, mostly in regards to just like for instance like the development of digestive organs, and for instance like the development of vertebrata, right, are like developments that go before even that come before like in the fossil record of like Tiktaalik.
Yeah, we also can see that that's where the fishes was sucking instead of chewing, and
Mhm.
they evolve and their jaw evolve, and there is a data we can see that it's not difficult, but yeah, it needs to understand. We need to understand that we need to go back to Ediacaran, how they form and how the endosymbiosis happen. That's where we can understand the mechanism of evolution. Asexual reproduction cannot have genetic diversity as opposed of the sexual reproduction. That's why the evolution that needs to evolve and change it a lot of things. That's what we saw, water bread and the jaws and the other thing. We can see that because of our ancestry, they couldn't survive if they don't change. And survival of the fittest is a perfect example where we can see how the environment forces are changing the organism. If they don't change, then they are not the fittest for the survival, and they will extinct.
Okay,
Right.
well, I just want to add. I just want to add. Hey, just quickly. I just want to add. Like at one point, Kent said, "Fish don't walk on land," and there's the mud skipper, which has a rudimentary lung, so he's completely wrong. But I do want to go to Max Doubt. Welcome, Max. Do you have anything to add about the debate, or we can go back to the discussion if you don't, and feel free to chime in.
Yes. I'd like to add in that myself, I'm not religious, but as far as studying science for most of my life, there isn't evidence for evolution that when I see the debaters, the Christian debaters and other religious debaters, I think they drive people to believe in evolution more, because even if they come with a good scientific dismantling of a lot of the fraudulent stuff that has happened from people that have promoted evolution, because I ask everybody that believes in evolution, can you name anybody that has done fraudulent activities to say evolution exists, and then we find out that person lied? Do you know of anybody like that in history?
I mean, I can. I'm just confused as to what exactly the point.
Just name
the
it.
point you're driving at is.
Exactly. Just name. Well, who is it? Like, how many are there? How many do you know?
I mean, whatever the guy was who was responsible for Piltdown Man. I mean.
Okay. Well, that's a basic one. Any others?
I mean, not really, to the best of my knowledge.
Okay, well, see, that's what I'm talking about. Do you have anything, Austin Sims? Did you have one that somebody that
I will talk to you in a minute. I wanted to say something.
Okay. I just want to go ahead with the fact that when you don't know, like, even a portion of all these people that have committed fraud to push the evolutionary theory, which would have been pushed backwards, right? Then that's not giving us a real scientific look at this. And when somebody religious tries to talk about
can you explain me who?
I mean,
hold on 1 second. Just hold on 1 second. When somebody
okay. Let him finish. I'm usually not for conspiracy theories, but dazzle us with your conspiracy theory.
Oh, I think I know.
If you want to call it a conspiracy theory again, it shows me that is a cognitive.
Okay, let me ask you.
In your mind.
Let me ask you.
No, bit of truth. Let him finish. I just said let him finish. Okay, don't make me mute you, buddy.
I appreciate that. So what I'm saying is, like, when somebody comes in and says, "Oh, well, this is," and this proves the Bible or something, which obviously it doesn't. It will drive anybody who is looking for a purely scientific answer into the direction of belief again, and just believing these myths of evolution, to say, adaptation and genetic shift, that's evolution. No, it's not. That's adaptation and it's genetic shift. And if we, like, a missing link, right? You guys have all heard of 1984.
Okay, Max, just 1 second. You're not going to be able to gift gallop in here. Okay, what you're doing is gift galloping. You're moving from topic to topic to topic to topic. We want to have one topic, then discuss it. Like Kent says, one topic at a time.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, that sounds good. Anybody have the proof of other people beside Piltdown Man that did fraudulent activity to push evolution?
Everybody knows Piltdown Man was a fraud, and it was discovered.
No, but we need more than that.
Max, don't just jump in over the top of me.
So I mean,
immutable. Seriously,
No,
Piltdown Man was discovered by scientists. They were the ones that discovered it. It wasn't religious people coming along and saying, hey, this is a fraud. It's the actual scientists working in the field that discovered it. So somehow this conspiracy theory, which has all of this stuff made up, would have to have the scientists debunking their own conspiracy for some reason.
No, the scientists were the ones that committed the fraud. So when you exonerate them, right? Or if anybody says, well, no, they didn't know. No, there's many. What about Ernst Haeckel? It just blatantly fraudulent.
A fraudster committed the fraud, not a scientist.
A scientist.
A fraudster.
Wait. So scientists can't commit fraud? Because we have many examples of that. You may not have that.
A good scientist doesn't.
Okay.
We're not talking about. We're talking about scientists.
All right, stop. I'm going to have to take control. I'm mutable. Go.
Yeah, so let me defend Max here. What he's referring to is within the early history of developmental biology, Ernst Haeckel, one of its founders, I believe it's there's between the second and third version, there was an incident in which, in one of the cases, he did where he directly used the same images from the second the second edition of that book into the third edition of that book, and it was known that that since the time of publishing from one edition to another, those drawings were not quite accurate, but he did it in order to avoid kind of issues with what would be genuinely considered publication deadlines. So it technically is considered fraud, although the major kind of thing, though, is that even in the time that those things were published, they're still fairly accurate, right? I mean,
no, they're not. And this is, I just finished doing a show, and I just happened to see you guys pop up. But if you guys ever really, because I don't want to interrupt, like Mark Reed is saying, yes, I don't want to come and interrupt your show. I saw it. I've been studying this for many decades. If you guys want to continue the debate, I would be more than welcome to welcome you on my channel or come back here. But it's late over here in New York. It's 11:45.
Same here.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to talk about, and I'd like to talk about it in a scientific manner, with different words that are being used.
But I'm kind of curious if you please can provide us where they did the fraud.
And that's what I would like to do. I mean,
listen. We can see the fossil record. It shows the gradualism. There is a changes in the fossils. When you look at the Neanderthal and look at the Homo erectus, if you look at the Ardipithecus, there is a gradual changes, and that's where they assume, even though they found the tools with the Homo erectus, they found fire and ashes and burned bones, even the gouges on the bones of those animals they were butchering, and they're taking the bone marrow. That's all they discovered. So how they come fraudulent?
All right. See, this is where you just don't know enough, because you've said that. I
know you are talking to me. I know that. I saw that.
Stop. Bitter. Let him think. But Max, please, you're just ad homing at the moment. Now,
how am I? All right. I'll just say it like this. When he's telling me that the Neanderthals, and the Australopithecus and all of this stuff, and he's not presenting what I originally asked. Were there any frauds with Java Man? Were there any frauds with Peking Man? Funny enough, we don't have those skulls, right? Of Peking.
We have those skulls.
I understand.
We don't have.
This is why I wouldn't mind doing something on my channel or coming back, because I don't want to interrupt.
I'm happy to debate you. Okay, so I'll challenge you to an actual debate. If you want to debate the origins of human, or whether
definitely.
Origins is fine. I will debate you on that.
Okay, that sounds
I
good.
can just warn you that this argument is like saying, well, there were snake oil salesmen, selling things to people back in the day, so no medicine is real.
No, it's not like that. You're incorrect. No, it's not. And this is why we should debate, because you're incorrect. It's not equivalent to that. It's not saying, because you're saying, because somebody was fraudulent, right? That all medicine works today. Do you know that there's still fraudulent medicine today, right?
Possibly. I don't know.
No, not possibly. You see, this is where I'm saying we can debate because you're wrong on that.
About the vaccine?
So if there's fraudulent medicine today, does that mean no medicine works?
No, I'm not saying that. There is medicine.
Well, then why are you saying it about evolution? Because you're saying if people committed fraud back in the 1800s, then it is definitely all incorrect. It's called black and white thinking. It's a logical fallacy.
No, you're wrong with that because they're still committing fraud today. You're still committing fraud today.
Well, then show us the evidence of that fraud.
And this is where you challenge me to a debate. I accept it.
Could you mute
Mark,
if
can
you
I ask
do
him?
that? Yeah, go.
Thank
you, Mark.
My bad.
I have a question. Do you believe that we have a common ancestry? We and chimps and bonobos or gorillas, do we have a common ancestry with them?
No, see, your common ancestor, that word itself, it implies something that doesn't exist. So you're saying a non-existent common ancestor.
No,
right?
they exist.
No.
Okay, let me ask you then. Why do we
hold it? Max, he's not asking. He's not saying this does exist. If you don't believe it, just say I don't believe it.
No, he just said he's saying it, implying that it does exist. Didn't you hear him?
No,
yes,
he's asking
because
you.
there's genetics.
He's asking you whether you believe
That's what I'm
it.
talking about.
He just said yes.
Okay, let me ask him. Why do we all have a tailbone? Why they don't have a tail, and why we don't have a tail? Why all of us have a tailbone? Just give us an answer.
Well, this is the thing. You're implying that there's a common ancestor.
Now you are
no, and I'm giving you the answer. You know, you're implying that because you have a few fossils without them, and then you have humans with them.
Max,
and you think, hey, this proves something that doesn't exist.
Max, he asked you a question. You said you don't believe there's a common ancestor. That's fine. There's no reason
it's not
why
that I don't believe
No,
it.
Max,
There is
no. Don't interrupt me, mate. Don't interrupt me. So there's no reason to say, hey, you're implying a common ancestor when he asks you a hypothetical question. He's asking you if we have he's granting you for the sake of argument, if we have no common ancestor, then why do we all have tailbones? You don't have to go, well, you're implying this. You know that he believes that. You disagree. That's the whole point. I don't understand why you're doing this. It seems like you're just trolling at this point.
No, I'm not.
Okay, go ahead.
You challenged me to a debate. I accept it. So whenever you're ready, you come over or I'll come over here.
Okay, you can come over here. I don't know what your channel is. My email address is in the private chat. Please do use it. And we can organize the terms of the debate, the structure of the debate, and the topic of the debate. And you can come over here and I will debate you. I will find a neutral moderator and we can have a debate.
Okay.
So it just seems to be every time I organize a debate, people say, oh, yeah, they're very big in public, and then they run away.
Oh, no. That won't be the case with me. So it'll just be you and I, right? And one moderator?
Correct.
Okay, so that sounds great. I got your email. And if I come for your debate on this channel, would you come for a debate on my channel as well?
Sure, as long as there's a neutral moderator. Yeah.
Yes. Matter of fact, you can pick the moderator if you want when you come on my channel.
What is the channel?
The channel is called American Zombie Channel.
Okay.
No, I want you to
for a start, hang on, bit of truth. Seriously, come on, man. Like, seriously. Hold it. Austin, no one can hear you. I see you talking in the background. Nobody can hear you. You've got no sound.
Sorry.
So there is a way I can just let you, if you use StreamYard, you can just stream it to yours as well at the same time.
Okay, yeah, we could do that, but I'd also like, if you'd like to come over, if Austin would like to debate me one-on-one, I think that would be great, and we could have a neutral moderator.
Sure,
I'd be happy to moderate if Mark wants to debate you, and I'm a very good moderator.
Okay, that's one option. Well, we can discuss it via email. I think sort of, just getting it down in email and writing is a good idea. No problem at all. American Zombie, no problem at all. What was I going to say? Yeah, just contact my email address. We'll set it up.
I just put my email in the chat too, so you'll know when you see me respond, it's coming from me.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, so at least you have that. And
what subject do you want to debate, Max?
Excuse me?
What subject do you want to debate specifically?
We could debate human origins. We can debate the origin of life. Yeah, so those two right there, you know, either or both, we can go into that, and then from there we can grow, you know. So yeah, so you know, if you want, I definitely will come over here, and then, you know, if you know, time permits it, if you have the time to come over to my channel, and then you can stream it back here. So I'm, you know, different days, different debates. I don't think this can be done all in just one shot. I would say an hour, maybe 2 hours at the most a pop.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not a problem. 2 hours is about the right time. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you a email, and thank you for having me on. We'll talk soon.
No problem. But I mean, we can still talk. It's just what I don't want is you saying, well, when we say, hey, if we didn't have common ancestors, why do we have this trait in common? You start with saying, well, you're assuming, or you're implying that we had common ancestry. That's not the case of the question. We're giving you a fact that we do have these tailbones, both apes and humans, and we're asking you, how does that work under your model of separate ancestry?
Yeah, I really like that, and I really respect the fact that you explained it to me so thoroughly, because that makes a lot more sense. That I would say, again, it is a mystery. So there are scientific theories to say, hey, we have these fossils, right? And we think they're from subhumans, and between apes and humans, or gorillas and humans. Now, they don't have tailbones. And the fact is that we do. So why is that? So am I getting it correct there? Is that what it is?
No, they don't. They do have tailbones.
Oh, okay. So who are you saying don't have tailbones and we have tailbones? So who's the ones that don't?
The gorillas, bonobos, and chimps, and surprisingly, we do have the same gene, TBXT gene.
Oh, okay. Wait.
All of us.
For me to understand this, you're saying bonobos and chimps don't have tailbones.
That is correct, and even gorillas, they don't have tail.
All right, now
they do have tailbone.
Wait, you just said they do have tailbone. Which one are you saying? Could you just? I'm just not understanding it. You're telling me chimps and bonobos have tailbones or don't?
They do have a tailbone, and even the bonobos also do have tailbone.
Okay, so who
chimps,
doesn't
gorillas,
have
bonobos have tailbone, as well as human have tailbone.
Okay, I want to know who you're saying doesn't have the tailbone. So what is the skeletal structure that doesn't have it?
I really don't understand. Mark, he is not understanding me. I don't know how I can explain.
I think what he's trying to say, right, is that if you trace human lineage, right, one of the distinctive things that characterizes us, like in the evolutionary view, as apes, right, is that if you compare it like to other kinds of things like monkeys and that, right, they have tails, right? But in the kind of lineage that we belong to taxonomically, we would compare it to like other great apes. We have tailbones, right? But we do not have tails.
Okay.
Right. The kinds of functions that like like your average monkey is going to use a tail for, right? Mm-hmm. We do not have we do not have that capacity, right? The extent to which the tailbone is present and functions effectively kind of as an auxiliary limb, right, for a monkey to be able to swing around in a tree, right? We have the same genes that can code, right, and that will develop into a tail if it's expressed highly enough, right? But in our case specifically, right, that gene is not expressed as heavily in humans.
Well, how do we know that we have that gene that can be expressed fully like that?
That's been experimented.
Okay. Wait, just hold on. Immutable. Yeah. So so there's studies, you're saying, genetic studies that are saying we can take a human tailbone, and these genes here, if expressed the right way, will create like a monkey type of tail where it can be used as an appendage.
So here's the thing, right? I mean, and granted, I openly give this disclaimer. I'm not a geneticist. We probably need to bring somebody in that's more specialized.
Mm-hmm. I work with them.
The basic idea is the following, right? We can take if you were to give a blood sample or a sample that contains genetic material, right? There's technology in which that genetic, right, in which the genome can be sequenced. You can cross-reference that against genomes of other species that are taxonomically related to humans, such as apes, such as monkeys, such as mice, such as fruit flies, etc., etc., etc. And like in the case of humans and like monkeys or humans and apes, like 99.9% of our genome is similar to that.
Hasn't that been debunked?
No.
Okay, wait. So that's when we have the debate, I have to add this in: human origins, origin of life, and frauds of evolution. So Piltdown Man being the major one. The Genome Project, believe me, I've studied this. I have friends in genetics.
Yeah.
Scientists that do, tests on lab rats, orthodontoblasts, teeth.
Sure.
Believe me, I know a lot about this subject. And maybe, like you were saying, if you have somebody that knows genetics a little more, I wouldn't mind, having.
So my I don't know if you caught it earlier. My background is in biochem, so I know a decent bit of genetics. The thing you're referring to as a discrepancy, right, is when we do things like sequencing genomes, we can do whole genome alignments, right? So we can count the number of base pairs from a given sample, compare that to the number to the genome size of another thing, right? There's different types of parameters one can use in order to have a measure of similarity, right? One of the more common ones is for protein is for protein coding, right? There's other metrics you can use that will give you different numbers, right? But the common number you'll get is between 95 to like 99%.
Okay, now why did you choose 99 then instead of 95 when you? Yeah.
It's because when you deal with, so for instance, right, when you're talking about genetic similarity, right, the thing you're talking about most often, the thing that drives selection, is that of protein coding genes, right? When you're comparing something like a whole genome sequence, whether or not like some sequence that is like been transposed, like that's been inserted by a retrovirus and that's been copied thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times, right? That's not really going to contribute too much to genetic similarity, because by and large, the majority of those viral sequences that are in the genome are not being expressed, right?
Especially from horizontal gene transfer.
Yeah, but why didn't you just say 95 to 99%? Because when you just say 99%, it does kind of seem like you're just pushing the evolution thing again, not giving the full scientific scope of it. 95, and also there are different numbers. We need to add those in too.
So again, though, it's because it depends on what exactly you mean, right? If we're talking about the parts of the genetics that matter, right, in terms of protein coding genes, right, the number, if I'm recalling right, is somewhere in the ballpark of 99%, right? If I take, and this is true even for humans, right? If I were to take the number of, if me and you were to both donate a sample and we were to have our genomes cross-referenced against each other, right? Based upon our genetic history, it's unlikely that me and you have the exact same base pair count in our genome, right? There might be slight variation. And so the problem there, right, is that when you compare something against, when you compare a sample against another sample, you have to have different controls in that method to account for that kind of variation, right? Because maybe you have 6.4 billion plus 100, right? But maybe I have 6.4 billion plus 500, right? Well, when we're doing genetic similarity, right, we have to compare against a common number, and you're going to have parameters that effectively fill that gap.
Okay.
When you're counting for sequencing, right?
So it's just to add something, Max, that's the same thing we do when we're seeing who has like parental testing, right? To see who's the father of somebody. We do the same kind of comparison to find out if somebody is actually directly related, that is somebody's child. So paternity.
You do know with that type of testing in DNA that there has been solid cases of women giving birth to children and men to where they were the person that fathered it, but the genes were actually not from them. When they took the test, matter of fact, there's one case of a man. He had a baby with his wife in vitro. But then when they tested him for being the father with what you're saying, the DNA count test, he didn't know if it's the father. So the scientists knew for sure that, wait a second, we did the in vitro fertilization. So his wife did not cheat, because that would be the first thing, he's not the father because of infidelity.
They get the wrong sperm sample?
No. Check this out. He had a twin brother that was absorbed during his gestation, which, most people, there is a large percentage of people that absorb within the first few days of conception a twin or another fetus. And that genetic signature, when they searched deep into the genome of his sperm, they found out, they labeled it his ghost twin brother. That actually those genes fall. Now, I myself was like, wow, I can give you links and everything to the studies, and there's other studies like this too.
No. So I don't doubt that, right? That's
and all I'm saying is immutable. All I'm saying is that, and I like the name immutable. All I'm saying is that with stuff like this, that takes a lot more to be taken into account. And I like having scientific conversations like this. The problem I see with these debates is people bring religion into it. And that's a problem, because they'll say, well, that proves this. Now, I'm not that person. I'm a person that wants to speak about it scientifically and saying, okay, we know this for sure. So the discrepancy in gene counting is the one thing, like you said, makes sense. 500, give or take, 1,000, give or take, out of billions or maybe more. But then there's also these other discrepancies that we haven't even stumbled upon. We have a few in, fidelity cases, but imagine what else there is, just to say, okay, we're looking at this scientifically. And there is a lot more.
We don't imagine, Max. That's the problem. You can't just sort of imagine evidence up and say, well, what if
I just presented
the case?
Right.
Well, just 1 second. I just got to do something quickly. Left-handed Jedi for $5. Thank you so much, LHJ. You're awesome. The Ithlit or Mind Player reproduce versus Ceramorphosis thoughts. So we'll go to that one after this. But go ahead, Max, and that's if you get that reference.
A guy named Robin Wetzer, if it's a woman or not. Since we were monkeys before apes, we grow the tail, or we grow.
Yes.
All right. We grow the tail, then lose it. All right. I didn't understand. All right. It was misspelled.
And there's things called atavisms, right? Do you know what an atavism is?
No, please explain it.
Okay. So an atavism is a throwback to your genetic heritage. It is the sort of structure of your ancestors coming up again, like your far ancestors. So there's cases where say, for instance, birds, they grow teeth kind of thing, like on their beak. And it's a throwback to when they used to be basically dinosaurs. And there are humans that are born with a tail, like an actual tail.
Okay, now the atavism, right? What you're saying is, how do you know, like what test is used genetically? As we see some of them, they do have flaws, tells you that it comes from a dinosaur, and which dinosaur did they relate it to in these tests? Which fossil?
No, it's so like, because the DNA has the coding in it to make these structures. Like Immutable was saying, it's basically epigenetics that turn it on and off. So, for instance, by changing the DNA, we have literally turned feathers into scales, or scales into was it scales into feathers or feathers into scales? Immutable. It was one way or the other.
Scales into feathers. They're trying to scales into feathers. Yeah. But see, again, that these are assumptions, because there's nothing that can even get close. The amount of structure difference in a scale compared to a feather is gigantic. It's enormous. I mean, when you look at that, you could type into, all right, this is an experiment, because I do have it's past midnight now. You can use artificial intelligence and ask for the mathematical calculations of how much time it would take, and just take a simple amount of amino acids to form a protein that would change, or maybe give something close to a change from a scale to a feather. And you'll find out that these numbers are astronomical. The time isn't allowed for it. But again, I thank you guys.
How much? What's the number on it? What number is
one of the
I'm
numbers
familiar with this one.
One of the numbers when you just look at a small amino acid, 11 say amino acids to make a protein, right? And factoring in favorabilities, affinities, and all of that, you're still looking at a number greater than 1 trillion. So
yeah, I don't think that's
okay.
No, but believe me, that's what I said. You could type it in and you could, do the.
It's realistic.
Immutable even said it's realistic.
Yeah, so, it's like 20 to the 11. It's probably going to be something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, some of them are to the 20th too, and I would love to get. I mean, it's a great conversation, guys. I really, and I want to stay so much because then you have more people on here. So it's like, something. When I come to do the debate, I mean, why don't we just have the guys here and we'll have Austin moderator, because it doesn't just have to be me and you, Mark. I mean, immutable seems.
I know. If I do a debate, I do a proper debate.
All right. If you want to do it like that too, I'm okay with that. But I really, I'm glad to.
I don't know if you've seen any of my other debates, but like I debate on YouTube, do actual structured debate is what I do.
I think that's great. No, I really do. I've been debating, but also producing content for a long time on YouTube, different channels. Now I'm doing American Zombie, but I also did, ancient archaeology and stuff like that before. But
Graham Hancock, huh? Okay.
Oh no, go ahead. Immutable, you had something?
No. Just back in my mind.
I mean, I've studied the sciences, and I really I think scientific method can, if used properly, can give us like real answers. It's done it in technical science over and over. But
who's your favorite scientist?
Excuse me?
Who's your favorite scientist?
Honestly, I don't have a favorite scientist. I have a few that. Because I don't see nobody. Well, all right. If you want to be condescending with that, fine. I don't worship scientists, Austin. So we're different.
I'll give you my favorite geneticist.
I want to go Graham Hancock.
Okay. Here's a different question. What's your favorite field of science, Max? What's your favorite field of science?
My favorite field of science, I would say, is genetics.
That's interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, and see, this is the thing. It's like asking me what's my favorite food. You can't just say you don't want to eat that one food forever. So I like other sciences as well. You see what I'm saying? So to say, hey, what's your favorite one? And I already know from the condescent. I mean, I gave Austin no disrespect for him to do that very disrespectfully. I see what time it is, but. Mark, I think we should have a different moderator, not Austin. So one that we can agree upon.
What's the problem?
I think Austin, he's very what he did. I don't want him to be the.
What did he do?
Well,
I didn't catch that.
You can when you rewind back the video, you can see it.
Okay.
Basically, is it okay to have a different moderator, if one that we both can choose?
Yeah, there's a few people that I use, and they moderate. One guy moderates on Modern Day Debate. He's very good.
Could we have two moderators? Could we have one of mine?
Absolutely not. No,
Mark,
you need one person. Bitter. Seriously, I'll go to you. I promise. Okay. Yeah, just one moderator to oversee things. You can't have.
No, I'm not saying that I want to be a moderator.
Bitter. Just 1 second. I'm talking to Max for 1 second. So if they disagree, it gets problems. I don't think that's a good idea at all.
Can immutable be a moderator?
Unfortunately, I mentioned before that I was doing biochem. The thing I'm doing now is like I'm balls deep in a master's program for doing mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, like my time is limited and sparse.
Okay.
I in good faith, I think you're probably better finding somebody else, if nothing else, just for like availability of time.
Okay. That sounds good. Well, we'll look for somebody, and I'll write Mark on my email, and we'll figure out who we can get.
What am I, chopped liver?
No problem.
Apparently.
What am I, chopped liver?
I haven't heard anything from you. My apologies.
I'm more than happy for Dave to moderate that. I'm more than happy.
I haven't heard him say anything, so I didn't. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm always happy to help anybody in the community. All you have to do is ask.
Handle one tough question.
No, it's all right. It's not a tough question. I told you, you worship scientists. I don't. I look at them as human beings. Valuable.
So do you
guys are great
worship
comedians.
religion then?
Are
You
you
know
getting
what
a lot
it
of followers with your
Austin,
comedy?
all it does is confirm that you're not going to be the moderator. All right.
Max, do you
Okay, well,
worship religion?
Oh no.
Do
What?
you worship Jesus?
No,
It
I'm
sounds
not
like.
religious. This is what I'm trying to tell you. I'm a
I
person.
would
that's
love to
looking-
have a debate with you on evolution. I'm not saying
Okay,
that
I'll tell you
wanna
what. I'll
take
tell
a
you
play
what.
Margaret,
Bitter
but I would
truth.
love to debate on genetics plus.
All right,
fossils.
bitter.
We
If
can
you
set
want
it
to
up,
have a
Bitter.
debate with me before Mark is free, you can come on my channel, unless you have a channel.
I do have a channel, and I would like to invite you to come by my channel, and I would like to invite Margaret to act as a moderator,
can I
and
invite
we can
somebody
have a
too?
debate.
Can
Or
I
at the
invite
Mark
somebody
channel, I
too?
don't mind that.
Okay. My email is in the private chat. I had put it in there for Mark to know when I write him that it's me. So if you want to write me on that, Bitter Truth, the email in the private chat. And for other guys too, if immutable or I know he's busy, but if you guys want to debate, because Mark says wants to be a one-on-one, I totally understand that. Just put the email there. Oh yeah, I said that for you too, Austin. I did. I said it earlier, but I don't think you heard it. I said it like when I was asking Mark, and I don't know, maybe you didn't hear, you're doing something. But yeah, I would love. And matter of fact, Austin, if you want to come on my channel, I'll debate you, right there one-on-one, just you and I. And if you want a moderator, great. I have guys that come on, they're really good. Or if you have a channel, either or.
The only thing I don't like the crosstalk. If I'm talking, I don't want somebody else to interrupt. And
Bitter,
just
you
keep
did
it as
that
a
as well.
debate.
We all did that. The only one that didn't do it was Mark. We all did it, but you did do it, man.
Yeah. If you know
We're
anybody
all-
that wants
we're
to
all
debate
guilty.
Bigfoot, you can get a hold of me. I'll
You mean
debate
Bigfoot, like, on which
pro
side?
or con. Pro or con.
Well, I don't like. So, are you saying that if I say Bigfoot doesn't exist, you want to debate it?
Sure.
All right, and then if I
don't
say it
think
does exist,
I would bother debating you anywhere but my own channel.
I love Bigfoot
Austin?
stuff. I love Bigfoot stuff. So you ever want to talk about
My co-host
cryptids?
is
I
such
love
a-
that stuff.
I can't even believe you're saying this because my co-host is a Bigfoot. I don't know if I should call it a freak. I don't want him to get mad or whatever.
Get a hold of me. Get a hold of me.
Use enthusiast. Bigfoot enthusiast is probably
This my co-host
Oh,
Scribe is a Bigfoot enthusiast. You guys, I think that'll be great because but Austin, if you don't want, you're welcome to come to my channel, American Zombie channel. My email is in the chat, the private chat,
Well, I'm gonna get a
I'll
little
stop by
spicy.
and I'll stop by and check you guys
on
out.
my channel, you can say whatever you want.
Straight up. The only
All right,
reason
well,
I wouldn't bother debating you anywhere but my own channel is because I feel like you are an absolute liar. That you have not studied science
Right,
at all.
Austin,
You have
let's
absolutely
not
no idea what you're talking about.
I'm glad you feel that way, man. I'm glad you feel that way. It's a personal thing. It's all yours. You can wrap it up.
We fully understand where you are coming from, Max.
Well, I don't need to be condescending.
We know, and I can expose you during the debate.
You can try to
please go
expose
ahead.
whatever you want to.
Let's try to
Yeah, well, I
avoid.
think
I
that's
was just
that's
kidding,
really the
man.
purpose
Come
of
on.
it. Okay, everyone. Well, this sounds like a great place to leave it, everyone, and we can have these debates. We can have these discussions. I think neutral moderation is what I'm all about. So if anyone does want to use me as a moderator, I will definitely do so. But be aware that I will show no favoritism to anybody at all. And if you expect it, choose somebody else. Absolutely choose somebody else. So I'm going to wrap it up there because I was going to go for a couple of hours in my time. I do have something to do. So I do apologize, everybody. Just on the last question in Super Chat, which was the ithilid or Ceramorphosis thoughts. To be honest with you, I didn't believe in this until I found out about the fungus that invades ants and cordyceps, the fungus that invades ants and then makes them crawl up and turns them into zombies. After I saw that, I kind of, maybe I thought it was biologically impossible when I was younger, but then I find out about cordyceps. And maybe it isn't biologically possible. Who knows?
So, Mark, do you play Dungeons and Dragons?
Yes, I'm actually doing a playthrough on my channel for
Nice.
Baldur's Gate 3. So that's a major feature.
I was going to say, this is a Dungeons and Dragons question. It's a question about the anatomy of a mythical beast called the Illithid, which is called a mind flayer because it's got these tentacles and these big teeth that'll grab onto your cranium and extract your brain. And as a dungeon master, I love torturing my players with these things because getting killed by one is worse than death. Your character is going to get converted to one of them. And actually, it turned out kind of cool a couple times because then I just hand them an Illithid written up as of their character, but now a mind flayer, and they play that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like one of those questions, like how would the alien blood work in Aliens, right? The acid blood, and whether that is a viable method of reproduction. It's just one of those questions. But I love it, Left-Handed Jedi. Thank you. But I'm going to call it there. Thank you so much, everyone, for being on the debate channel. I do apologize, Austin. I did have a 2-hour limit on this just because of stuff that I'm juggling.
Oh, I didn't know that, but that's totally fine.
Yeah, I do apologize, mate. Dave, thanks for coming. Bit of Truth, thank you. Immutable Destiny, thank you as always. You're fantastic. All of you guys are fantastic, and very nice to meet you, Max. I hope we can have some really productive arguments about what pros and cons about different views on society. It is unusual to meet someone that's not religious but denies evolution. So I'm really looking forward to exploring that. I think it's very interesting.
Max, are you internet famous? Because I'm going to be digging into you, bud.
I appreciate it, Mark.
Okay.
Austin, you guys are funny. Dave, I don't want to leave you out. If Dave, my email is in there too. I think you and my co-host would have a great one on the Bigfoot. But Mark, I think good. I'm really glad that you can acknowledge, because what I've noticed when I watch some of these debates is it's only religious people against people for evolution. And even if they come, with great evidence to say, look, okay, you got to address this scientifically, then they go back to something that's totally unscientific and say, well, this is why.
Like the religion people, they believe in Adam and Eve story, and that's where that's their belief, and they don't have any data, any evidence. That's where pseudoscience you guys believe, but you don't
told
believe
me
the
that
fact.
you can't interrupt on your channel, but you just did it to me.
Yeah, that is true.
No, I was just No.
So just a quick title of a question Robin Webster asked: Is he a flat earther? Max says no, he is not, which is at least we can agree on something. Yeah. So Bitter, just quickly wrap your thoughts up, and then I will throw out, mate.
Yeah, and thank you, Mark. I'm gonna go unless you want me to stay till you guys end it. That'll be cool.
Oh no, you take off whenever you want. I'm gonna end it in 2 seconds anyway. Okay. It's not. But thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. I do.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, man.
My pleasure.
So I just email you, Max. Please reply.
I'm gonna open it up as soon as we close this window. I'll go to my email. And Dave, man, I look forward to that Bigfoot thing. Immutable, man. You're a cool dude. Definitely. I could sense, definitely.
Hey, Max, nice talking to you, man.
I'll roll by over there and look you guys up.
Yeah, definitely. I got some crazy ones, man. I mean, there's people that come on that are flat earth. Some people don't know. Some people want to know. So I let a lot of different people in, and there's religious people, but they don't preach. They don't say, oh, well, this is why, because I will bring it out. Like I said it to one guy Saturday, and I hope he didn't get offended, because I was like, look, man, I said, you're talking about the 10 commandments. I said, why wouldn't it be thou shalt not kill or something first, or know thyself? But no, it's don't worship any God but me. I said, that's not really cool, and I again, I'm not trying to offend anybody. It's his faith. So people might look at that as, oh, well, why don't you, crush them or debunk them? And I'm not here to do that to some people. I'm looking at who knows what that guy's going through. Was it Nietzsche, I think, said it best? Nobody converts to a religion. You have to be sick enough to accept it. And I have my own opinions, but I try to give everybody a fair shake when I talk to people. Yeah, I'm not trying to be mean to those guys. And of course I do have mean streaks. I'm human, but I try to. I do notice there's really not too many people coming from a scientific perspective, like Mark was saying, that opposes evolution. It's usually, from what I've seen, almost all religious. I'm the third nicest atheist on YouTube.
So
That's
Who's the
actually
first two? I'm usually fairly nice, Max, but I have been through the ringer tonight. I'm sorry if I came
it
across
hurts, doesn't it?
you.
You do a debate and then do an after show. It's hard, isn't it, Austin? Your brain is a bit
it's just not a lot.
spongy, yeah.
I apologize.
Hey, you did.
Yeah.
Hey, you did
No,
good,
it's all good.
Austin.
It's all good.
You did
Thanks.
good, Austin. Congratulations
Yeah, you did very
on
well.
breaking your proverbial cherry and everything. And welcome aboard, and good luck with your channel and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Thanks,
absolutely.
Dave. I appreciate
Thanks
it.
for hosting, and thanks for hosting, Mark.
My pleasure, and a big thank you to Austin. It was his night because he did a fantastic job. Really good questions. I love the experimentation stuff, as I said. Absolutely fantastic. But thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Don't forget to be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye, everyone.